It's a real puzzle. You've got this region right on the European Union's doorstep. It's had decades of peace, billions in aid poured into it, and yet it just seems to be stuck in this economic twilight zone. So, we're going to dive into what's going on here. This is the Balkan economic paradox, and we're going to try and figure out why. All these years after the wars, these problems just never seem to go away.
Okay, so let's jump in a time machine for a second. Go back to 1989. What you'd see is a Yugoslavia that was a genuine industrial power. We're talking giant factories, brands that were known around the world. Now snap back to today, and what do you see? You see the skeletons of those same factories. You see forgotten brands, and a generation whose biggest ambition is to pack a suitcase. It's this contrast, this ghost of a vibrant past, that makes today's reality so much more baffling.
Right, and here's the thing you have to get your head around. You just can't blame a bullet hole from 1995 for a factory shutting down in 2024. The wars have been over for a long, long time. So the real question is, what happened after the peace deals were signed that locked this entire region into this never-ending cycle?
Well, it all starts with what some people call the original sin of the post-war economy, a massive nationwide fire sale called privatization. You see, the war might have destroyed the region's body, but it was this process that came after that destroyed the very economic organs it needed to rebuild itself. And to really get how this heist worked, you have to understand this uniquely Yugoslav kind of weird concept of socially owned property. Back then, factories didn't belong to the government, and they didn't belong to private individuals. They belonged to society. So when capitalism rolled in, this created a giant legal black hole. I mean, who actually had the right to sell these things? Well, the new politicians had a very quick answer to that. We do.
And they followed a brutally simple playbook. Step 1. A politically connected auditor comes in and says a multi-million-dollar factory is basically worthless. Step 2. The auction is held, but so quietly that, oops, only one guy shows up. A guy with all the right connections, of course. Step 3, and get this, a state-controlled bank gives that same guy a loan to buy the factory, using the factory itself as collateral. And finally, Step 4. The new owner fires everybody, sells the machinery for scrap metal, and then sells the prime real estate for a massive profit. And just like that, a tycoon is born, and an entire industry dies.
This whole process taught an entire generation a really painful lesson, and this quote just nails it. Imagine you were a skilled worker at a car factory. You had a solid, middle-class life. Then you watch as your factory is just cannibalized. Your future gets erased overnight. You learn a lesson, fast. In this new world, what you know means nothing. It's all about who you know.
So the destruction of industry, that created another crisis, a deeper one. Economists love talking about GDP numbers, but in the Balkans, the only number that really, truly matters is the census. The region is going through a silent depopulation. It's not happening with bullets anymore. It's happening with bus tickets to Germany.
And the scale of this is just staggering. Look at Bulgaria, which is facing a lot of the same problems. It's lost around 2 million people since the wall came down. 2 million! That makes it one of the fastest shrinking nations on the entire planet.
Over in Serbia, the outflow is so constant, so predictable, that the equivalent of an entire medium-sized town just vanishes from the country every single year. Let that sink in for a second. An entire town, gone, year after year.
And maybe the most heartbreaking case of all is Bosnia. The exodus there has been so total that today the Bosnian diaspora, the number of Bosnians living abroad, is nearly as large as the population still living inside the country. You've got whole communities that now exist mostly in WhatsApp groups, scattered all across the world.
And this quote, wow, it just captures the psychological damage. When all the brightest, all the most ambitious people leave, this really toxic idea starts to take hold for those who are left behind, that the very act of staying is a sign of failure. It becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy that just guts the whole idea of building a future at home.
The most damaging part of this is who is leaving. The Balkans have basically created a medical export industry. Think about it. Taxpayers, pensioners, people working low-wage jobs, they spend a fortune educating a doctor. The moment that doctor graduates, they take a German language course, and they're gone. Germany gets a highly skilled, fully trained doctor for free. The Balkans get nothing. It's this huge, invisible transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich.
Which, of course, brings up the big question. These countries all say they want to join the European Union. So why doesn't Brussels or Washington step in and put a stop to all of this? And the uncomfortable answer is because, to some extent, the West lets it happen.
Yeah,
There's actually a name for it, stabilitocracy, and it's basically this unspoken deal. The EU quietly signals, look, we won't look too closely at your corruption, we won't make a big fuss about your media freedoms. In return, the Balkan leaders have to deliver on just two things. Number one, don't let ethnic tensions blow up into another war, and number two, act as a border guard to stop migrants from reaching the EU. As long as they deliver stability, everything else can slide.
And this whole dynamic creates a desperate race to the bottom to attract foreign investment. The sales pitch is simple. Come to our country for the super cheap labor, and hey, we, the government, will even use our own taxpayers' money to pay you to hire our people. A foreign company gets a subsidy, maybe $10,000 per worker, which covers most of their salaries for the first few years. They create low-skilled jobs like winding cables together, and when the subsidies dry up, they can just pack up and leave, just like the shoe company Geox did in Serbia, putting over 1,000 people out of work just like that.
And if the EU does start asking too many awkward questions, about corruption or workers' rights, the local leaders have learned to play a new card. They just pivot to China. Beijing comes in offering massive loans for big infrastructure projects, and they basically act like an ATM with very few questions asked.
So, okay, when you put all of these pieces together, the privatization heist, the mass emigration, the foreign enablers, you arrive at a final verdict. This isn't just an economy that's struggling. It's what political scientists call a captured state.
And this is a perfect illustration of how it works. A city announces a $1 million project to pave a road. A company with deep political connections wins the bid. They then subcontract the actual work to another company for, say, $400,000. So where does the other $600,000 go? It gets siphoned off and funneled right back to the ruling party through kickbacks and donations. It is a perfect, closed loop where public money is used to fund the very political machine that keeps the system running.
And on the ground, the whole system runs on what they call the clientele trap. This term, sandvichari, captures it so well. It refers to people, often desperate for a job, who get bussed into political rallies. In exchange for showing up and waving a flag for a few hours, they get a free sandwich, a bus ride, and maybe, just maybe, the hint of a temporary job. It's a powerful symbol of how political loyalty is traded for basic survival.
So you have to wonder, why doesn't a system this corrupt just explode? Well, there are two critical safety valves that keep it from blowing up. First, there's a massive gray economy, cash-in-hand jobs that make up a huge chunk of all economic activity. It lets people survive outside the official system. And second, there's the remittance lifeline. That's the money sent home from relatives working abroad. It can account for up to 15% of a country's entire GDP. It's a financial cushion that just takes the edge off of any mass outrage.
So after looking at all of this, you're forced to come to one pretty stark conclusion. The system in the Balkans, it isn't actually broken.
It's a machine, and it's working exactly as it was designed to. It was never meant to create broad-based prosperity for everyone. It was designed for one purpose: to allow a small elite to extract wealth, to export its most ambitious people, and to hold on to power forever.
And that leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? This extraction machine is powerful, but it's not invincible. So the future of this whole region really comes down to a simple personal choice for millions of people. Will enough of them stay and fight to break the machine, or will the final product it exports be the last of its own citizens?